It's important to think and see horizontally on this heat check episode. This particular variant of the real estate market we are currently dealing with requires non-conventional thinking to understand. You can't just rely on your school or conventional thinking to understand this. Don't let your studies get in the way of your education. We'll walk you through unfamiliar territory on this episode of the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Investing in real estate can be full of pitfalls. Don't end up as another horror story on Mike Riley's Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast. Hi, I'm Mike Ferrante with Century 21 Homestar and the 21 Mike team, serving buyers and sellers all over the state of Ohio. We specialize in helping investors buy and sell real estate, so before you make another move, go to 21mike.com to schedule an appointment. The 21 Mike team, your one-stop shop for buying and selling.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Riley, post-Labor Day, talking to my partner in Cleveland State Real Estate Podcast, Mike Ferrante. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. I put away all my white pants since it's after Labor Day, so I'm ready.
Okay. And now you're into your plaid. You're getting ready for the fall, so you're pulling out the plaid, right?
Yeah, the flannel, your fall colors, yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, folks, in Cleveland, this is the time of year when the weather absolutely turns spectacular. Next week, it's, we're going to have a little rain on Wednesday, which we kind of need a little bit. Lawns are getting a little dry. We're getting a little light, cool rain today. But next week, it'll be 50s at night and upper 60s, 70 during the day, sunny, except for a day of rain on Wednesday. So you can't get any better weather in the U.S. than Cleveland in September, especially once you get into early October. It's beautiful. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, come on and visit us.
Exactly, and buy a house from Mike Ferrante, right? or
that.
rent a house from Riley Properties.
Yeah, you dip your toe first with a short-term rental, and then if you love it, you talk to me.
Okay, now before we get to each month's eagerly anticipated September heat check, I want to run a few things by our audience. And Mike, you'll be hearing this for the first time. First of all, it's been a real interesting last 3 weeks. I guess everything comes in threes. Lindsay Riley, for those who deal with Riley Properties, my daughter, oldest of the three, got married on September the 2nd. I was father of the bride. That went well. I turned 70 on September 7th and caught COVID on my birthday. So not a lot of opening of good red wine on my birthday. So I guess things come in three. And we bought a house, but that's for another story. Mike Ferrante and I will talk about that down the road. Other than that, how was your Labor Day?
It was good. I'm always on the clock, but I did get a little bit of downtime and, a little time with family. And it's our daughter's birthday. It was the day after yours. So we had a big birthday bash.
Well, folks, listen, write down Riley Painting and Contracting. You should know Riley Properties, Riley-properties.com. But Riley Painting and Contracting, Mike, we're doing something a little bit different here. We've got a property on Kingston Road, 44118. And if you go to the Riley Painting and Contracting website, which is the parent company, which I started almost 50 years ago, you will see a house for sale, the Kingston house. Right, Mike?
I know Kingston.
Okay, you know that house.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I drove past the house last week, and we put a sign out in the yard. I mean, we've been renting it short term and really doing well on that property. But we put one of our signs out on front saying, hey, house for sale. Go online, go to rileypainting.com and see about this house. Well, across the street from us, there is an open house today, Mike, on Kingston.
There you go.
Between 1 and 3, there's an open house. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to change the copy at rileypainting.com. We had the price listed at $200. Not getting any nibbles on that. So we took it down to 190. But we also told people that this house is ready to move in now. You can rent the house. You can rent the house from us at $150 a night. And all your rent, except for the utilities, could go towards the sale of the house, the purchase of the house. I thought to myself, I'm going to see how that, because I'm thinking somebody's going to say, yeah, I'm interested in this house and I need a house right away and blah, 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 blah. Why don't I test drive this house for a month or two? And we've had a number of people stay at our properties who come into town. They need a place to stay for a couple months as they look for another house. What's your thoughts talking it from the realtor perspective?
So, Mike, this was really prevalent back from 2008 to 2012, 14, when you couldn't give houses away. And anytime you broaden your market. So right now, what you've done is you've broadened your market to not only traditional buyers, but buyers who maybe are in a pickle and need a place to hang their hat now, or maybe they want to rent for 6 months before deciding for certain if they want to buy, or maybe they're repairing their credit. So anyway, what you've done is you've created sort of a mini owner financing situation. And anytime you broaden your market, you're going to get more eyeballs on your property. So I think it's interesting. I'll be curious how the experiment pans out. And yeah, I think anytime you can do that, you're just helping yourself out.
Right. And go to the interesting thing is we have two properties that are under land contract this year. One is our Westover property, and the other one is our Cumberland property. And we set up a land contract with them, but the land contract is all about them giving us money up front, earnest money, $5K. They back out of it, they lose that, but they're still paying the rent, the same amount of money they paid for rent, but now it's been converted into a mortgage. And I'm thinking of doing the same thing with Kingston. You got some young couple coming in, they can pay the money, they can rent the house, we can get people in the house, they can work their way towards ownership while they secure financing and XYZ. And it'll be really interesting to see how this develops. Final thoughts on that before we go to heat check?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you have to get creative when you're working in real estate. So like I said, back in the day, this was something that no one else was doing, and it helped us get a few more eyeballs on properties. So yeah, I'll be curious how it pans out, Mike.
Good. All right, everybody, it's time for September heat check, and I turn the mic over to Mike Ferrante. Go for it, Mike.
All right. Well, I know it's an expensive microphone, so I won't drop it when I'm done today. But yeah, it's more of the same. I feel like I'm caught in a matrix loop or something, because we're still seeing what we've been seeing the last few months: shortage of inventory, prices continue to climb. I know that a few people said, "Oh, see, Mike, when prices dropped, the median price dropped to 160 at the beginning of 2023. Everyone was saying, oh, here's that adjustment." But we literally will have price fluctuations in that amount from season to season here in Northeast Ohio. So as I predicted, we did peak over 225. That's 225,000 median sale price. That peak was in June. And as we expect, it's going to start dipping a little bit as we head into the fall and winter months. So 213,000 was the median sale price for residential real estate here in Northeast Ohio. Essentially, Cuyahoga County is what I look at when I run these numbers. And your inventory is still way down, Mike. We're used to 4,000 to 6,000 properties on the market, and we're at a third of that, roughly 2,100, almost 2,200 homes for sale. That's homes and condos for sale on the MLS right now. And there's no relief in sight. Builders are building as fast as they can. I mean, if you drive around, even in your area, Mike, you're starting to see those infill lots, those little lots where a house was torn down or maybe a home was never built there. They're starting to build some homes on these lots. I'm seeing more and more of that. So it's gonna catch up eventually, and it never stays a seller's market or a buyer's market forever. But right now, it's still a strong seller's market, low supply, high demand.
Okay, let's do a little sidebar here, and then we'll get back to some of your other numbers. But our flagship house, the Fairmont Mansion, which everybody can see if they go to RileyProperties.com, that's the big 12-bedroom house that we bought last year and fixed up. And it's got that vacant lot, which we're in the process of subdividing. Now, we're figuring that lot, based on what I'm seeing around town, priced somewhere around $100,000 for the lot, undeveloped. If you were me, what would you do with that? Would you sell it undeveloped? Would you clean it up, get all the utilities in there, cut the trees, then sell it for double the price? Or would you build a house on spec and given this market, given that location? What would you do? What door would you pick, Mike?
Yeah, so I'm greedy. I want all the doors, Mike. And so, like I was saying about your owner financed options, seriously, I would pursue every avenue. I would start out marketing the raw property, and then at the same time, I'd be exploring getting some of the development done. So clearing trees, getting it ready for someone who wanted to build a house on it. And every step of the way, I'd be marketing the property at a price that would make me happy. So, years ago, I bought a house at sheriff's sale and I sold it without ever setting foot in the house. Someone contacted me right after the sale and said, "We want that house," and I sold it. Now I could have made more if I had rehabbed it and flipped it, but to make some quick money, barely lifting a finger. I mean, I didn't have to get out of my chair.
Yeah.
So I would, and so your question was, what would you do if you were me? Well, if I was Mike Riley, I've got this resource available, Riley Painting and Contracting. You have the guys, you have the access to materials, you're local. I would absolutely pursue building a house on that property if none of the other options pan out. But along the way, if someone puts the right amount of money in front of you and says, "I want that lot," then you take your profit and move on to the next project.
It's interesting because folks, you're going to see there's going to be a couple podcasts coming down the line on you'll hear the house Devonshire, which my wife and I bought. Went over there. I had already seen it, and this was a private purchase before it even hit the market. And Mike went over with us, so he knows it. And of course, I knew the neighborhood. I knew it pretty much everybody. But I got this property before it hit the market, and yeah, Mike feels like I matched the asking, but that's another story. But one of the things to keep in mind with real estate is the fluidity, the being flexible. I mean, right now we have an asset with that vacant lot. And my idea is once that vacant lot is cleaned, even if we build a house, we can build a house such that when you're sitting in the patio at Fairmont in a distance, you won't even see that house. I mean, we could build a berm, we could build a stone wall, we can do a lot of things. So the view would actually be enhanced as opposed to detracted from, with a house there. Plus, once we develop contacts, like say, for example, Mike, some of our properties, we're looking at that Shelburne house to sell. Well, you're a realtor. You've got somebody coming in and they're saying, "Hey, I'm coming in January. I need a house." Well, a house that's coming on the market in 2 months, right?
Yeah, that's having that knowledge is power, and they call those pocket listings. Which, as you know, Mike, if you're able to intercept something before it comes to market, you avoid all the competition. But at the same time, you can also serve a buyer or seller need with this knowledge of homes that are coming to the market.
Exactly. So look, at all you want to be real estate investors or people that want to be a realtor, get their license, whatever. One of the things you have to always keep in mind is you have to look horizontally, not vertically. Okay, it's important that you get your license, you learn the ABCs of being a realtor, right, Mike? That's important. You teach some classes on that. But then the market's always evolving. It's like COVID. Every time you turn around, there's a new variant. So in the real estate market, like, the contracting business, what we're doing now with women in the Philippines doing all the accounting work. It's night and day from what it was 5 years ago. We're charging for estimates because a lot of times they're more consulting than estimates. So that horizontal view, you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at the heat check. Let me connect it back there. Let's get back on that road. But you're always mindful of little nuances in the numbers you're seeing, which are pointing to larger trends. Thoughts? Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. If you've been listening to this podcast, then you understand or should understand the pitfalls of investing in Cleveland real estate. Say you're looking for an investment property to rent, and these are the things that could happen and often do. You overpay for a house, and it's in the ghetto. Then you find that it's a money pit with endless surprise repairs. Your hapless property manager, who may be the brother-in-law of the realtor, gets a tenant who after 3 months stops paying the rent. Then the toilet explodes, and you have nobody to repair it because, guess what? The property manager is not answering the phone. Yep, that's the ugly side of the Cleveland real estate market. But we have a solution. Buy one of our properties. It's been inspected. It's been vetted. It's in a rock-solid part of town. It comes with a Gold Star tenant paying top dollar rent, and we manage it. Call us at 216-371-8160 if you're interested.
Well, and I call it being nimble. It's one thing to look at your past numbers, which we do here, but you also have to look at leading indicators, to know what's going to happen tomorrow. Now, obviously, we don't have crystal balls here, but I do my best trying to figure out what the leading indicators are, and that's if you're poised to be nimble, then you can take advantage of these changes as they're happening, or even before they happen.
Okay, now, without naming any names or whatever, so how many clients does your team engage with said, Mike, we're coming in a couple months, we need a house? Or they just come in, when they're here and they call you?
No, most people are planning ahead. Very few people are moving and don't know about it months ahead of time. So we do have plenty of those, and we always have those conversations with them. Are you going to stay in a hotel? Do you need short-term housing? And there's still, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still a shortage of short-term rentals in our area. Even though I'm hearing in the news about Airbnb having a decline in income, when we go look for short-term rentals, people have very few options.
Yeah. And I think this is why this Kingston play, the adjustment on the marketing that we're doing on this property, it's also a magnet to send people to Riley Properties. This is like this sign we have on the yard that basically says, go to our website for information and pictures and blah, 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 blah. It's when they go there, they're going to be told, hey, we got this house. Here's the pictures. You can move in. But we also have a whole bunch of other properties that you could say. So it is leveraging the fact that across the street, they have an open house.
I would take it a step further, Mike. I thought you were going to go where I would go, and that is I'd put up my own open house sign at exactly the same time as theirs, and I'd be flagging people down. That's how I did a flip about 15 years ago, just as I was getting licensed, right before I got licensed. So it must have been 16 or 17 years ago. The house next door was for sale, and I was just finishing my flip. And as someone came out of that house, I flagged them down. I said, hey, you looking to buy a house? This one's going to be for sale. And we sold it.
Folks, this is why I have Mike Ferrante as my podcast partner. Besides his tips on vegan and cappuccino, every now that cappuccino hits a little chord in his brain, and it just gives us this wonderful information. Well, Mike, the Browns are playing at 1. It's 12 o'clock Eastern time for you people in Australia. It's still Sunday here. And the open house on Kingston doesn't start till 1 o'clock. Guess who's going over there with his laptop to watch the Browns game and hold an open house?
I would. And Mike, just a little pro tip for you. Some people listening might be licensed brokers like I am, or real estate agents. I didn't like poach people's clients. The poor lady who actually became a friend after that, she's looking at me like, oh my God, are you literally trying to steal my client? I looked at her and I said, oh, I'll pay you. If these people buy my house, I will pay you. And I did.
Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to be that, that guy trying to steal people's clients and not pay them. So that lady sold that house, no competition, fair price for her and me. And I paid the agent. That's what I think was the right thing.
Oh, and that is the fair
to
thing.
do.
That is the fair thing. I remember back in when we started our business in the mid 70s, which, by the way, folks, next year, 2024, will be the 50th year of Riley Painting and Contracting. But when I was in the fall, my first year out of college, the first couple of years I was using the summer painting work to pay for college. We were doing our gutter cleaning business, which was a great business in the fall. All the leaves come down, but we did it very scientifically, but that's another story. But I remember I'd go out with a two-man, with two guys. They would work on one house, and I would just go around, knock on doors, and said, hey, we're on the street, you need your gutters cleaned. Boom. We'd get 2, 3, 4 more jobs in that same day. We're there, cash, boom, done. It was magic. But that's the hustle. That's the horizontal view, which you need to have when you go off on your own, because, hey, quite frankly, as a licensed realtor, you're self-employed, right, Mike? You could be working for a real estate company like Century 21, but at the end of the day, you're a one-man band, right?
Yeah, 100%. We are subcontractors. We get 1099s at the end of the year.
Okay, let's get back on the road here. Give me some more stats.
All right. How about some more numbers, Mike? Let's talk about number of days to sell and the number of sales, because that's the other big conversation. Everyone's saying, oh, there's no inventory, and also the market's crashing because sales are dropping dramatically. And that is true. Number of sales has dropped from the last couple of years, but it's not this catastrophic drop, and it's not because there's a real estate collapse coming. It's because there's no houses to sell. If there were more houses to sell, there would be more sales. So it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy. Last month, 1,369 sales, which if you go back 5 years for that time of year, for August, almost 1,700 sales. So we're literally down around 20%. And across the country, it's 15 to 30% drop in number of sales. Everyone's screaming interest rates. That's part of it, sure. But it's also because there's just not enough inventory. But take a look at number of days. 5 years ago, Mike, 45 days to sell a house. And we had big smiles on our faces when it took 45 days. We're like, yeah, good job. We're high-fiving saying it only took 45 days to sell my house. Right now, it's 14 days median time to sell.
Wow. Okay. So it's a mutation, right? You should call this show the COVID, the real estate COVID mutation, the variant. This is a variant, right?
It is. It's an anomaly. It's not going to be like this forever, but it's what it is right now. And so whether you're a real estate broker, agent, investor, you have to adapt to what's happening in the market now.
Exactly. And I think go ahead.
I was going to say, Mike, I got bonus stats this month. So real quick, I'll lay these numbers on you.
Mike, it's my birthday. Give it to me. Go ahead.
We're numbers guys. We track and measure everything. Just like I'll never forget the first time I sat in your office, Mike. You talked to me about measuring profitability of types of jobs, and it's only appropriate that you talk about gutter cleaning, because I remember you told me that was a good profitable job. Most people think, oh, well, how do you make a living gutter cleaning? But anyway, I digress. The bonus stats for this month are months of inventory. That's if we didn't if we didn't list another house, how many months would it take for there to be no more homes on the market? So it takes into account the pace at which homes are selling, that number of sales number, which is dropping. I just told you it's dropping. So surely we must have months and months of inventory, right? No, 1.6 months. If we didn't list another property in Cuyahoga County, it would only take 1.6 months and there wouldn't be a single property on the market. Now, obviously, homes are added every month. And what's normal, a balanced market, they consider 4, 5, maybe 6 months. 5 years ago is when inventory just started to drop and we were at 3 months of inventory, but now it's 1.6. And then the last stat is percentage of list price to sale price. We know that homes have been selling over list price and everyone's saying, oh, the market's softening, it's softening. Well, guess what, guys? 100% is the percentage of list price to sale price right now. And it's already September. It should be slowing down. 100%. Mike, remember back in the day, we'd say, oh, make a 90% offer. That's respectable. Not
Right.
anymore. You come in at 90%, most sellers are going to laugh at you.
Right, exactly. I was thinking about that with, again, our Devonshire offer, because we paid a premium for this house. The gardens alone are worth over 100,000, that landscaping, but it's in an area which is already rising, but it's even going to be even better once the top of the town's finished. Nighttown rolls in. I mean, you're talking that whole area is like Central Park. So we did a podcast a couple years ago about micro targeting, and this is where you're looking at, if you're looking to buy something, look at a neighborhood which is trending up versus static or even trending down. Right, Mike?
Yeah, well, the neighborhood you're talking about is one of those areas that it's a diamond in, it's the needle in the haystacks, so to speak. It's one of these areas that is always going to be a premium area that's never going to change. It's kind of like a Tremont, Ohio City, but times 10. This is this tiny little pocket where, like, if you didn't know it was there, you could drive by it 100 times and never know that this little pocket is there. So it's like this special little treasure trove of real estate.
Well, for those listeners who are in the Toronto area, this area is like Witchwood Park in Toronto, which is a jewel in the heart of Toronto. I mean, when houses go on the market, they usually sell in an hour. So we'll see. It's a journey. Anyways, I love that bonus stat. Anything else in the stocking for us on this heat check?
That is all the numbers I have for you, Mike. Maybe I'll dig a little deeper next month and find some other little special stats that us numbers geeks can really wig out on.
Well, I think this has been a really interesting podcast. I mean, we kind of went off a couple little sidebars. I really like the variant theme here, because I don't care what business you are. And I guess, it can go back into I'll fall back into my rabbit hole on college, and why I think college can be, for a lot of people, a waste of money, because it tends to be more skewed towards vertical thinking than horizontal thinking. I mean, I think going to college is great for that experience for a year or two, take some different courses, look at it more as a seminar than lock it into 4 years. God knows, do not take out any kind of big loans unless you're going to be a doctor or some specialist or an engineer. But I think the important part for people going into real estate as a realtor, again, to reiterate, is that horizontal view of things. Read everything you can get your hands on. Read the New York Times every day. Read the Wall Street Journal. You don't have to read it cover to cover, but just smattering of news. Get yourself touching all these different rocks of knowledge out there. And then you'll have the ability to synthesize, especially if you're, you're in their mid 50s, 60s, you're kind of retired, or maybe you got laid off, or your business, you're a journalist and papers closing or whatever. Even more, you have to first say to yourself, before you start sending out resumes, I have to just Control Alt Delete, blow up my thinking and look at it fresh. So give me some final thoughts on that, and we'll call it a podcast.
All right, I'm going to crush one over the fence right here, Mike. When I was a senior in high school, a guy came in and spoke to us about college, and he was just a freshman in college. I don't know where he got this, if it's an original, but he said these words. He said, "Don't let your studies get in the way of your education."
Wow. Wow. Goodbye, Mr. Spalding. Over the fence.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Give me that again. We'll end on that note.
Don't let your studies get in the way of your education. And, at the time, I didn't know what he meant. Fast forward, a couple year into college, I'm like, I get it now. I get it. It's not just about what's in the book. It's about becoming an adult, becoming an entrepreneur, if that's the path you're going for. There's so much to learn, and it's not in any books.
Right. And a lot of times the people that are teaching you this can be the worst teachers, because they keep teaching the same stuff over and over again. I mean, you get a tenured professor there. They've been doing this stuff for 10 years. I mean, go back in time 10 years, they're still teaching the same stuff, even though the world's changed, Yeah.
Mike, we're going to look at this as the podcast where Mike Ferrante called his shot like Babe Ruth. I pointed to that right field fence, swung the bat, and the crowd went crazy.
The Bambino, Mike Ferrante. All right. Well, listen, I got to hustle over to Kingston and park myself on that front porch and have an open house. So anyways, Mike, this was a out of the park bomb. So I can't wait for our next one, which we'll talk later in the week. All right.
All right. Sounds good, Mike.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Riley. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.